So let's start the week today here in our Transformer world with some drama, I guess, and problems. So about 5 months ago in April, we covered the problems that were going on with the Haslab Omega Prime that had a design flaw where if you transformed your Optimus Prime Fire Convoy portion of that Haslab, the robot mode to the super mode or vice versa, or even just transforming it in general in some cases, the pressure from the inner working would cause the ab area to stress and crack, and it was primarily because of a lot of the design flaws and the rigidness of the locking system, the thinness of the plastic of the ab region. A lot of problems. Some fans were even getting this Omega Prime figure already damaged in the packaging, in the box, before they even opened it, primarily probably due to shipping and factory damage due to handling and maybe shipping handling and it shaking around and the pressure in that region. A lot of not happy people when they received this item. And it's been an ongoing issue. And pretty much 100% of the Omega Primes that are out there are going to have this problem. All copies have this design flaw. And it's a big one. So Hasbro addressed it and offered to ship out a, quote, fixed version, a replacement, to whoever had that problem. They just needed to contact customer service and ship out their Omega Prime to them, and they'll ship out a replacement. And that was that. That was a couple months ago. So we have more problems, though. 1 month after that whole happened, people who also owned Omega Prime started to notice yellowing on their Ultra Magnus that was part of that set, the God Magnus unit. And, it's plastic that's not UV treated. And in all honesty, from my opinion, it's probably a lower quality MABS plastic that's used. I've talked about this before on the podcast, about how UV lighting could cause yellowing, extreme heats. A lot of times people don't think about that they have their transformer in their house and then they leave the house for the day and it gets really hot. And you don't leave the air conditioning on when you leave your house, so you don't realize just how hot it gets in a room sometimes. And that could also lead to low quality MABS plastic turning, so to speak. And people are familiar with this kind of stuff, in many different levels because a lot of Transformers have suffered from it. And even in the toy world, when we're talking low quality plastic here, the best example is Bandai of America and their Tick action figure line in the 90s, where 100% of the Tick action figures today have a yellowing problem. And it has nothing to do with UV exposure or heat. It's just the quality wasn't good and it turned yellow. I bought my own personal Tick figure back in the day from Toys R Us back in the 90s. And then it sat in a comic book box in a cool basement away from heat and sun exposure for decades. It still yellowed. So sometimes if you just use crappy plastic, that's going to be the end result at the end of the day. And between the Ultra Magnus and the Optimus, we had a lot of problems. So the Ultra Magnus had its yellowing problem. The Optimus had the design flaw. And now, all these months later, people are finally getting their replacements in the mail. And already there is some discussions and issues to be said here. First up, if you sent back your whole Omega Prime, the Ultra Magnus, the Omega Prime, every piece and part in the box and everything, you didn't get back your whole Omega Prime. You only got back the front end of Optimus and maybe the parts of Ultra Magnus, depending on what your order was. So a lot of people are scrambling now to contact Hasbro to get back their whole toy that they shipped out because they didn't get back what they shipped out. So it's a little messy with that. There was a little bit of miscommunication. I don't know if it's Hasbro's fault or the customer's fault, but there was a bit of a miscommunication on somebody's end, and a lot of people are having these problems because you get a box that's Optimus A, that's just the front end, and then you get the Ultra Magnus box, and that's just the parts that from Ultra Magnus that suffered from yellowing. So there's all of that. The second problem is the figure that's sent out, that was sent out to us, this replacement, was not a new tooling. It wasn't a fix of the old design flaw. It was pretty much just something that fans were pretty much doing themselves in their own DIY kind of way, because before Hasbro offered to send out these replacements, when fans were opening up this Optimus Prime and finding out this problem, they already, especially the, customizing community, shout out to them because they're absolutely awesome. They already started to do their own thing. They started opening up Optimus, identifying the issue, shaving down the rigid area that has the locking mechanism, shaving down the T-post if they didn't shave down the rigid area. So you could have done one or the other to just kind of prevent that from happening if you didn't have the cracked abs already. So it's, they were doing it already. So sadly, fixing the toy meant you had to damage or modify the toy. I got lucky. Mine shipped, not damaged. And then I kind of went my own third option, which is I just loosened all the screws on the back, carefully transformed it into Omega Prime mode, and then called it a day and never touched it again, because I'm anal like that. I don't like damaging or modding figures, even if it's, I like to keep them pure, but I'm crazy. So that's, the third option, but most fans just went about fixing it themselves. And when these replacements showed up from Hasbro, it wasn't some brand new tooling. It wasn't some brand new redesign. They didn't go into the tool and just fix it up. When people got this brand new replacement Optimus, they opened up the undamaged product and noticed that Hasbro, probably the factories in Vietnam, all they did was open up the figure, sand down that T-post, and call it a day. And many fans kind of already did that before. And this wasn't machine sanded either. A lot of fans are looking at this and going, this was clearly filed down by hand and then just put back into the figure to kind of fix the problem. So, yeah, it's something you really could have done yourself. So if you already have one that doesn't have cracked abs, that's all nice and minty and everything, you could kind of just do what Hasbro did right there and just open it up and file down the T-post and you're good to go. But if you have a damaged one, I don't know, maybe still have a chance to send it in and get one modded back to you if you don't want to do it yourself. As for the Ultra Magnus with the yellowing thing, everything seems good so far with the replacement parts that have been sent, but that's something that you really need time to see if the yellowing will happen again. So time will tell with that one, unfortunately. It's been a shaky journey for this Haslab, I'll tell you. And Hasbro's lucky that the fans didn't get the Omega Prime in hand before the problems were noticeable by the time the funding for the Lio Kaiser ended. Like the Lio Kaiser ended in February, March, and then by March, April, people started getting the Omega Prime. I have a feeling that if all that drama from the Omega Prime would have been known, I think it probably would have hurt some of the backing for the Haslab Lio Kaiser. Maybe, maybe not. Who knows? But this is indeed a crazy thing to happen. And I know that it definitely backfired and didn't help Hasbro, and indeed probably cost them a lot of money in the short term anyhow for something that was a premium high-end product that fans were expecting. It's a tough one. Again, let's hope Hasbro has learned from this and that they'll be wise to make sure that this doesn't happen in the future. I mean, I guarantee that they're definitely looking over Lio Kaiser and making sure that there's no problems with this release by the time we get it in our hands. Considering that, especially that it's planned for fall of 2026 Lio Kaiser to arrive for us, that shows that they're definitely taking their time with this one. It's the longest we've had that we have to wait for a Transformers Haslab product since its backing ended to when it's planned to be arriving in our hands. 1 year and 7 months for Lio Kaiser. That's the longest we've ever had to wait. Omega Prime, 1 year and 4 months. All the others, 1 year and maybe 1 month, maybe 2. So this is the longest we've ever had to wait for a product. And I think it's them really going over everything carefully so they don't lose a ton of money like they did here with Omega Prime. It's all pretty crazy stuff. But let me know what you think about all of this. Did you get the Haslab? Did you have any problems? Did you ship it back? Let me know what you think about all of this. And once again, comment below and let me know. Thanks again for listening to the Transformers Slag podcast and keeping you educated, entertained, and informed on everything going on in our crazy Transformer world. And hope everything works out, and I'll talk to you in the near future.